Yesterday, we talked about how the so-called tradcon movement is infested with grifters, particularly grifters who love to push an anti-women shtick. Specifically, we talked about people like Ashley St. Clair who build brands preaching submission and anti-feminism while not so secretly living opposite lives, having multiple baby daddies, and being sexually promiscuous. Not to mention boss babying off their anti-boss babe grift. It's very meta. But if you think the hypocrisy stops with the women in these spaces, you're wrong. And unlike conservatives, I actually hold both sexes accountable for their actions over here. Being politically homeless is just amazingly freeing in that way. So today we're turning our targets on the men, the ones who claim to be the defenders of traditional values while living lives that contradict everything that they preach. And who better to highlight this contradiction with than Elon Musk, who is the baby daddy in question with Ashley St. Clair. Elon Musk is a man that conservatives love to prop up as a hero of Western civilization, a genius, a visionary, even a role model. And yet, Elon embodies every behavior they claim is destroying society. He is a serial baby mama maker. He has created multiple broken homes. He quite openly does not have close or good relationships with most of the kids that he has fathered.
Convinced many people to have kids.
Friends. So that's good.
Yeah, they love it.
Yeah, like the very things tradcon conservatives blame women for, they completely ignore when it comes to Elon. And I've just had enough. And here's the real kicker. Over the past week, while these trad influencers were pushing their normal BS, telling women they need to stay home, they need to submit, multiple women who actually had Elon's kids were desperately trying to get in touch with him for support while he was attending CPAC, the conservative event that loves to lecture about family values. Like, you cannot make this stuff up. Also, what was with those weird sunglasses? He looks like he was rolling Molly. So cringe. So today, we're breaking down Elon's role in this whole Ashley St. Clair mess that we touched on yesterday. If you didn't see that video, do go back and watch it, because today I want to pick up where we left off and discuss the conservative hypocrisy that protects him and men like him, and what all of this really says about the so-called traditional movement. So let's get into it. First, I'm Hannah Cox. Welcome to my channel where I bring you my politically homeless takes on politics and culture. If you're also politically homeless, I'd love for you to join me here by subscribing to my channel, and don't forget to hit the notification bell while you're at it. Now, as I touched on yesterday, I think Conservative Inc. has a massive grifter problem, and Elon Musk is by no means the only place that this is evident. But it has gotten especially bad when it comes to Elon Musk as of late, given his proximity to the president and the enormous power that he has been granted in this new administration. And look, to be very clear, I have praised Elon Musk on my channel, on my shows multiple times over the years. I agree with him on probably 60-70% of things. I think as a whole, he has been a positive force in politics.
That Elon Musk, who is the left's embodiment of everything they hate, right? Talent, hard work, success, and refusing to bend the knee to their agenda. So he's their top target. He's been their top target, I would say, for a while, because they hate free speech.
But I can think that while still being critical of how he lives his personal life and the social values that he not only espouses, but contradicts in his very lifestyle. It will never not be endlessly interesting to me that the majority of people I know in the libertarian space, me included, continue to be far more ethical, far more traditional in the ways we actually live our lives than most of the people I encounter behind the scenes operating in right-wing politics. And I've been in this sector for going on 12 years now across a ton of states and at the federal level, and it just continues to bear out. And why I think that is so interesting is that libertarians, people who are kind of politically homeless, even like me, tend to be that way because we don't want the government involved in our economic lives, and we also don't want the government involved in our personal lives. And so because of that, we would argue against the vast majority of laws that try to prohibit people from carrying out activities that we might find to be immoral, but that don't actually hurt other people. So I might think that it's really stupid to watch porn. I might think that it is degenerate to be a gambler. I might think that it's really bad to have kids outside of marriage. And I can think those things while not coming in and trying to implement laws forcing my way of thinking on other people. And I think that that is unquestionably the most ethical stance you can take. I refuse to impede somebody else's liberty because I don't like how they use it. But the people in the right-wing spaces do the opposite, okay? They actually do want to come in and use the government, which anytime you put a law in place and use the government means you are willing to put people in jail and even take their lives if they break the law that you put in place. They are willing to use that level of force against people to try to control how they live their social lives. And we see this in their involvement with reproductive choices. We see it when they try to get involved with who can marry who. We see it lately with a huge push by some on the right to try to even get rid of things like IVF or to prevent gay families from being able to access IVF. We see it from really weird, creepy men in the red pill sectors who can't get a wife / can't keep a wife, trying to argue that we shouldn't have, we should no longer have no fault divorce, that essentially you should make it really hard for women to leave men. Why? Because they want to be able to socially engineer your lives. And I think that that is creepy and bad and unethical in and of itself. But what makes it even worse is when these same kinds of people don't even hold themselves to the standards they are trying to force on everybody else. And I would argue that Elon is kind of in that camp. I don't think he's as bad as some of the others, but he certainly is out here ranting and raving about the birth rate and how we need to have ways to ensure that we are getting more people to have kids. He's working alongside administration that has put forth some very unethical ideas about how that might be achieved. And so I find it very, very creepy that he is doing that while having multiple baby mamas, zero family structure across them. He's fathering children and then essentially disappearing on them. He's leaving the mothers to chase him down on Twitter for support, which we'll get into in a minute. So I think this is crazy to watch. And what's even crazier is to watch conservatives not say a word because they are so desperate to be in the in group. They are so desperate to have proximity to power that even though they might disagree with some of the things he's doing, they won't say a word against him. And ultimately, a lot of them don't actually disagree with the things he's doing. They don't really, really care about how men like Elon Musk conduct themselves. A lot of this propaganda and BS they've been spewing is about controlling women, and that's what they actually care about.
No-fault divorce is just the end of marriage. Marriage does not exist.
That's right.
This is one of the great tricks that I think the sexual revolution pulled on the American populace, which is this idea that, like, well, okay, these marriages were fundamentally, you know, they were maybe even violent, but certainly they were unhappy, and so getting rid of them and making it easier for people to shift spouses like they change their underwear, that's going to make people happier in the long term.
Your website says it's outrageous that no-fault divorce is so prevalent in our society, but research has found that it leads to a dramatic decrease in suicide, domestic violence, and even murders, with women being primarily the victim. How do you outlaw no-fault divorce and still keep women safe?
Our government only mandates morals. There's not, every law has to do with something that's right or wrong. So morality is built into the system. It's just a choice of whose morality.
Elon cannot be out here saying he is trying to fix the birth rate while embodying the exact behaviors that drive it down, which are fatherlessness and instability. Like, I seriously want you to look at some of these tweets that were posted. 2 of his baby mothers were actively trying to contact him over the past week online for help on Twitter, because that was their only chance of getting a response, was to post on Twitter and hope that public pressure and response to their post would get his attention. Meanwhile, he was over at CPAC, ironically an event that claims to preach family values.
I am become meme. Yeah, pretty much. I'm living the meme. It's like there's living the dream and there's living the meme, and it's pretty much what's happening, you know?
You're like, I think you're bigger.
I mean, Doge started out as a meme. Think about it. And now it's real. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy.
But it's cool.
We could probably do a whole thing about the hypocrisy around CPAC and the people involved there, but I only have so much time in a day. So I want you to just look at these posts. Now, on Twitter, as people were posting screenshots about Ashley's a very intentional plan to get a hold of Elon and seduce him and hopefully have a baby with him. Elon simply responded to those posts. He never acknowledged her posts. He never acknowledged this baby. He never acknowledged her post saying that they had had a child. He's not said one peep about it, which is so embarrassing. Like, can you imagine hard launching your baby and the baby daddy doesn't even like the post? Oh, the ghetto. So yeah, he wouldn't respond to her, wouldn't engage with her, wouldn't comment on this to her. But then when people were starting to trash talk her and post receipts about how seedy she'd been behind the scenes, he responded to that, writing, "Whoa." She then said to him, "Elon, we have been trying to communicate for the past several days and you have not responded. When are you going to reply to us instead of publicly responding to smears from individuals who posted photos of me in underwear at age 15 years old?" He still did not respond to her. Which backs up what the vast majority of people have said about her Valentine's Day bomb dropping. It didn't have anything to do with people sniffing around. It wasn't because some media outlet was about to announce this. She was mad because she was getting ghosted and she decided to take matters into her own hands. Now, like I said yesterday, I have zero sympathy for Ashley. I can't rehash all of that. But again, go back and watch that video if you haven't. The thing that I thought was really sad was another baby mama of Elon's, the artist Grimes, who was having to do the same thing. And I guess I have more sympathy for Grimes because this is somebody who had a career in her own right. You know, I'm not necessarily a fan or anything, but like she has achieved something for herself. She's not a grifter. She's not an e-girl. She was a person of some quality. They had an actual relationship for some time. And yet that doesn't seem to make any difference in how he treats her. Here she is talking to him on Twitter. She says, "Please respond about our child's medical crisis. I am sorry to do this publicly, but it is no longer acceptable to ignore the situation. This requires immediate attention. If you don't want to talk to me, can you please designate or hire someone who can so that we can move forward on solving this? This is urgent, Elon." Like, how sad is that? I am 37 years old. If I was having a medical emergency, like, there is nothing you could do or say. There is no force in the world that would stop Don Cox from getting to my bedside. What do you mean this mother is having to go online on Twitter and plead in the comments for a father to acknowledge his child's medical crisis? Now, obviously, this blew up and got a ton of attention, and Grimes, refused to give any more details. She says, he won't respond to text, calls, or emails, and has skipped every meeting, and our child will suffer lifelong impairment if he doesn't respond ASAP, so I need him to respond, and if I have to apply public pressure, then I guess that's where we're at. She was, I think, being very classy. She was just doing her best to get his attention, to get some kind of response, to intercede for her child. She wasn't airing dirty laundry. She wasn't giving a ton of details. She wasn't giving pictures in her apartment with her feet on display like Ashley did a few days ago. Anyways, I have a whole lot more sympathy for Grimes. And as if that wasn't crazy enough, it then appeared that the Twitter powers that be started shadow banning her tweets. They were being hidden. I saw this firsthand with my own eyeballs, and she went in and said that she's deleting her post now because they're being shadow banned and not eliciting a response. That's all she's after. Otherwise, it just gets a media circus at the expense of the kids. So, I mean, this, I think, as a whole, really put on display just how low down Elon is, because I think people were still sort of giving him somewhat of a benefit of the doubt in the Ashley St. Clair situation, just given her obvious trashiness and like obvious desire to have a kid for money. It was really hard to feel sorry for her. I mean, even then, it's inexcusable. He knew what he was doing. He created a child with her. He should be responsive and involved at the very least with that child. But when Grimes came in and started posting like this, I think that really flipped the narrative on Elon. Like, there's just so many things about this scenario that do not track for me. One of them being, if Elon is so smart, such a genius, then shouldn't he have more discernment than to be making kids with like random e-girl thoughts online? Someone else had this thought too and said, if Elon's whole thing is about spreading his seed as far as possible to ensure his legacy, shouldn't he be impregnating like scientists and mathematicians and not C-tier right-wing e-girls? It's not giving genius to me. Elon is not a victim in any of this. His kids are. And in fact, he has a very long track record of creating broken homes. This is his 13th child that we know of, okay? That we know of. There's likely many more, because had Ashley not had a complete meltdown online, no one would know about this kid yet either.
How many kids do you have now?
I have 12.
And yet, he's only ever pictured with one of them that he tends to kind of bring out like a prop. Whenever he's getting bad media coverage, whenever it kind of seems like he could use a like literal shield from public opinion, he drags this kid out. Elon claims to want to reverse the birth rate, something I am very critical of. I'm not even convinced, first and foremost, that reversing the birth rate is necessary. I think mostly it comes down to people having the freedom to pick, and because of various circumstances, they are in large part choosing not to anymore. And if you want that to change, then you need to fix the root causes, which are mostly government related, but then I think have a lot to do with men, has a lot to do with men and their roles and what kind of responsibility they've shown in the past. It has a lot to do with women being able to find suitable partners at the right age, at the right time, who are willing to bunker down and procreate with them and then show up responsively throughout that whole 18-year time period and beyond. And I think that if you actually care about the birth rate decline, you would be addressing those things. But for a brilliant man, Elon can't really seem to put his thumb on the root cause of what's causing it, which is staring him in the mirror. Fatherhood requires more from men than money. And conservatives who act like it doesn't, I think, are the biggest misandrous out there, because you're saying that's all that a father provides for offspring. And that's completely sexist. It's completely wrong. We need strong fathers. And that means fathers who are good partners to the mothers, because that is a requirement to have a healthy foundation and a solid home. It also means fathers that show up for their kids in more ways than just going to work from 9 to 5 and providing a paycheck. And that, I think, really is the huge issue staring us in the face. I've talked about this all over this platform for months and months and months. But women are not going to continue doing all of the work they have to do to succeed in a career, to get a good job, to get a high earning job, and then settle for somebody who is not keeping up with them in that way, while simultaneously being expected to continue carrying the bulk of the burden when it comes to running a household and raising kids. We have too many deadbeat dads in America. And that doesn't just mean dads who peace out on their kids, like Elon seems to. It also means dads that come home and let the woman that they're with do all of the work in the evenings and on the weekends. Conservatives continue to look at this problem and demonize single moms and broken homes only. They harp all day on women who file for divorce. They suggest ending no-fault divorce. They say that the courts are too favorable to women and that men shouldn't have to pay child support. Like, the list goes on and on and on. But they have nothing to say about men like Elon, because he's powerful and he's rich and he's aligned with their political tribe, and most importantly, because he's a man. So he gets a pass. I'm curious what your all's thoughts are. To me, this is just such a glaring omission. I often hear people say correctly that the left bashes men, the left has a man-hating problem, that the left doesn't like men, and I concede that. I think that that's true. But I also do not hear those same people confronting the women bashing happening on the right and the mirror image problem that is occurring over there, nor do I hear them being willing to confront many of the issues that men are facing that are of their own making. And I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely fed up with it. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Drop them in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to my channel while you're down there. Not only is Elon a deadbeat dad, he's not living with these kids in the home. He's certainly not participating in the day-to-day of raising them, but it doesn't even appear that he is financially participating in the way that many people would assume. So even if you think all of this polygamy, weird baby mama culture is okay, so long as you have a fat paycheck, he doesn't even really seem to be pulling his weight in that regard. In fact, he's previously stated that he follows the legal minimum requirements for child support. And given his wealth, that amount is actually surprisingly low. We can't say for sure because this is private information, but it's been reported that it's likely under $3,000 per month per kid. And this is likely because child support calculations in many states are based on formulas that take both parents' income into an account. They take the custody arrangement into account. So if he has even shared custody, the required payments could be minimal, even for a billionaire. And even if he doesn't have that much custody, they would still be capped. Okay. I think some states cap it at like $300,000 worth of income. It differs depending on where you are, but none of these women seem to be getting rich. I think Ashley I truly think Ashley is not a smart girl. And so she probably didn't do the bare minimum research into the situation she needed to before deciding to have a baby with this guy, but I don't think it's going to pan out for her that well. Now, it might all come out in the wash because Musk has mentioned that he provides for his children in other ways besides child support, like paying for their education or their living expenses. So maybe you get a nicer condo than you would have otherwise. otherwise. I don't know. All I do know is it doesn't make up for a dad being MIA in a child's life, and quality women do not want to create that scenario for their kids if they can help it. Now, interestingly and unsurprisingly, yet hypocritically, Ashley has filed for custody and legal rules around the payments that she will get. And that's hypocritical because, like I covered yesterday, she was loud and proud against women trying to get custody, isolating their kids from their dad. She says dads shouldn't have to pay child support if they don't want the kid. But just as the feminism leaves women's bodies when the bill comes, according to the red pill community, it seems the tradcon red pill grift leaves the bodies of people as soon as their baby daddy ghosts them. And because she filed these documents in court, we now get to see some screenshots she took. So it seems like they were texting back and forth on Signal, which is a very secure app, and the messages will disappear over time. So clearly she knew all along there was a chance this would happen and was taking precautions. But here she is sending Elon a picture of her and the baby. He says, is all well. So I assume he wasn't at the birth even. And she said, he's perfect. He said, I look forward to seeing you and him this weekend, falling asleep. There is no amount of money. There is no amount of money you could pay me to convince me to have a baby at all, because pregnancy creeps me out. I mean, it really, I could not do it. But especially to have a baby for a man that's like not even your husband, not even around, not even at the hospital when you deliver. I cannot wrap my mind around agreeing to this. I just think you must have such low self-esteem, such low belief in yourself and your ability to build a good life for yourself without having to bend to these kinds of circumstances. It's really sad. It's really pathetic for everybody involved. Now, here's another text thread between the two of them where it seems maybe their relationship was starting to break down. Maybe she was asking for more involvement from him. And he says, I get credible death threats every day. I'm number 2 after Trump for assassination. Wake up. This is not the time for sentiment at the expense of safety. If I make a mistake on security, redacted the baby's name, we'll never know his father. This seems high-key delusional for a number of reasons. I think he very badly wants to be the main character. Number 2, like, you have the best security in the world. You've got Secret Service everywhere. If you are actually that concerned about being assassinated, then please explain to me, like I was born today, why you're trotting your one kid around with you everywhere you go, particularly to high-profile events like when you're in the Oval Office at the White House, because I'm vastly confused on that front. But anyways, that's me. That's where I'd be, because I have a spine. Ashley does not seem to have a spine. And in response to this, saying things like, that's why the father spot on his birth certificate was left blank, and that's why he has my last name. Elon says that's necessary for now. Only the paranoid survive. She says, I understand. Apologies. We're taking so much precaution. He says the threat level will reach insane levels until the election is decided. Loose lips sink ships. I would say loose dicks sink ships, Elon. There's another text where she seems to be pleading for more involvement from him. She says, hi, I feel like a lot broke down when Jared, who's Elon's money manager, got involved. He said a lot of pretty horrible things to me that he attributed to you. And I feel as though there was never a rift in our relationship before that. If you are in New York, or if you would like me to come to DC, I really would appreciate being able to speak to you in person. I care about you deeply and feel as though third parties have put a major rift in our relationship that I truly wish was better for the sake of our son. He says, okay. Then he responds and says, well, we do have a legion of kids to make. So I guess he thinks they're going to have more babies together. She then went on to send him like some thirst traps. He said, hi, cutie. She said, see you soon. He says he wants to knock her up again. These people are degenerates. It is crazy to me, high-key crazy to me, how mum Conservative Inc. is in response to all of this. Again, I think you can like and support much of what Elon does politically without condoning this. And it is only because we have gotten to a point where we have a cult of personality as our political system versus an actual like political ideology, actual principles, that you see this happening. Previously, in decades past, people would have spoken out about this. But now that everything's down to like who's in the in group, who's hanging out with who's getting retweeted by who, they're all too afraid to lose their proximity to power. And oftentimes not even their proximity to power, just their hope, right? They're just hoping Elon notices them on Twitter and starts retweeting them so that they can get their payments up. Modern conservative influencers and their followers are not actually about trad life or nuclear families, as I've been saying for some time. They use trad values as a weapon against women while excusing or outright celebrating male degeneracy. And instead of holding men accountable, they shift all the blame onto women. They don't actually care about fixing society. They just care about controlling and policing women's choices. And I think the obsession with high status men like Musk shows their true priorities, which are money and power, not morality. And for many of these men, they want to get picked, okay? They're jealous of people like Ashley. They want to be in Ashley's shoes so badly. They cannot be Elon Musk, so they want to be picked by him. And that's where their actual hatred of women comes from. Conservatives don't actually stand for what they claim to. Their selective outrage proves that beyond the shadow of a doubt. Ashley and Elon Musk are two sides of the same coin ultimately. They're both grifting and exploiting and contradicting the very values that they push. And if conservatives really cared about the nuclear family, then they'd hold people like Musk and other deadbeat dads accountable. But they won't, because it was never about family. It was always about their stupid culture war. A culture war that on the right includes trying to beat women back into submission. If you actually want to fix the birth rate, step one is actually like women, okay? Like women, support their rights, don't be a misogynist. And step two is start addressing fatherlessness versus glorifying the men who create it. Hope that helps. Okay, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel if you have not already. And if you want even more content, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok.